Hey folks, I'm the founder of Spear Growth, Ishaan, obviously. Um, so I want to quickly come on a live stream and maybe share a couple of things, right? So about us, we're a B2B SaaS marketing agency. We've we've been around for over 2 years now, right? And in this time, we've figured out our ICP. We really understand which market we are in, what do we do, who do we serve. We've had a lot of success with a lot of companies like Series A, B, C companies, uh, seed stage companies. We work with some unicorns. So we are an sort of an established player in the space. Now, what happened was last quarter, things didn't like just started really taking a nosedive, right? And the market has been crashing for a while, but last quarter was especially bad for us. And honestly, like my reaction to it was, hey, we are, and this is me almost quoting me, we are a very small player. If you look at the overall market size and what percentage we hold in it, right? So since we are such a small player, we just need to do more marketing and we should be able to capture more market share, right? It's not like if the market goes down, it's going to become a problem. So essentially, my solution to it was like, hey, just do more marketing. That's going to solve everything. That wasn't the best solution. So after a lot of research, after looking at a lot of other companies, a lot of our clients who are B2B SaaS companies, a lot of other like coaches, marketers, friends, we implemented this plan which had like 7 parts. And at the end of it today, we have like double the week on week SQLs. And I just want to share with you how we did that and what are specific things we did to make that happen, right? So the first thing that I shared last time was how you can look at your ICP. Now, this was the post that I shared, right? So I mentioned three very clear ways. Like, there are 4 steps, and then the 3 places that we look at when looking at, okay, does our ICP hold or not? Because that was what had happened in our scenario. In our case, uh, the people who we would normally work with were uh, the definition had changed, the needs had changed, and we had to pivot slightly. But since that just wasn't something we were used to, and that became a problem. So the 3 things that we looked at that were the most useful instead of looking at relooking that doing that entire ICP definition was these 3: looking at your churn, your sales, and your value delivery. And I'm going to show you examples of exactly what did we find when we looked at churn, sales, and these 3 things, right? Essentially. Um, Before I do that, let me just explain to you what was another resource that we created just before doing this activities that really helped. One thing that really helped was this. This is a market research sheet that we create for all of our clients. We've improved it recently, but essentially we have a lot of information about every single thing that we would need to work on. Now, in this, one of the sheets is essentially your business segment sheets. Now, a bus- so what business segment is like exactly how do you divide your company into different parts, and that's what your marketing needs to be aligned with. So in our case, the top 3 ways in which we divide our market is one, we would do the 3 ways, right? So the first one is our offering. So we do 2 things: ads and SEO. So okay, we had to keep in mind that okay, there's a separate market segment for ads and there's a separate market segment for SEO. Second thing was maybe like the funding stage, right? And then so seed companies behave very differently from A to B, and then and D stage companies behave differently, and then the geography. So our top 3 are US, Singapore, and India. Obviously, we have clients in other places, but again, the way people would behave in these segments are different. So firstly, you need to understand what these segments are. So these, you can think of these as your sub ICPs, right? Your sub ideal customer personas. How would you look at each one of them differently? So once we had this, I went back to the checklist, right? So we have the checklist, and I started looking at the data. So first thing, when we look at churn, I'm just looking at my notes. So when we looked at churn, we realized that, and we had some customer churn as well. So we looked at that. Okay, what were the factors based on which that were common between companies that were leaving us. So one, there was like how long, or like one was like certain market segments, right? They had a higher maturity in terms of how many people knew about that segment. So based on, or like for example, how many people, for example, an HRMS software, right? So people really know about that segment. There's a lot of demand for it. So those things were important. That was the first thing we looked at. That was a common parameter between, like, there was different levels of maturity. Second thing was how long was someone, had someone stayed with us. That started changing. So people who stayed longer started behaving differently than companies that were staying for a shorter duration with us. Based on this, so these were like two things. Okay, so going forward, we could sort of look at maybe targeting certain people with, if the market maturity is higher, we could give it a different kind of priority than it was lower, right? Second thing that we looked at, so that was our major, out of a lot of different things, that was the first thing we found out in churn, right? Second, started looking at sales. Now, when we looked at sales, the things that we found were, again, certain segments performed really well. Actually, certain regions are performing much better than other segments. Like the close rates in certain segments, the time to close, all of those things were much better than in other segments. And even in those, let's say in those regions, there were certain sort of, let's say for ads in certain region was working better, SEO in certain region was working better. So you were able to see those patterns very clearly when looking at the data. Then the third thing we looked at was value delivery. Which of our customers are we able to deliver the most amount of value to, right? For example, in our case, there were certain types of, the only pattern that we will look at was there were certain uh, sizes of marketing teams where we were able to deliver much more value than to others, right? There wasn't really a difference between other things. And again, this varied across our business segments. But those were the three things that we really noticed. Now, based on these three things, it became very easy for us to now look at, okay, can we prioritize certain business segments, certain types of people more than others? And we've had really good success with that. We've also been able to define something that I'll go more in depth, that we call 100% SQL, which basically means that if they're an SQL that matches these criterias, we'll do everything needed to close them. And that, all of those things that we did was, we were able to do it only because we went through this activity. We looked at which users are churning, or which customers of ours are churning the most, which types of prospects are we able to see the highest and the lowest sales close rates, and then who are we delivering the most value to. And that was the easiest way for us to quickly change our ICP versus try and create a new one from scratch, because we're still in the same market. So yeah, that's basically it. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm very happy to answer them. Just drop them in the comments. I'll go back after this live and just answer them. Cool. This was a quick 9-minute live to help you get an example of doing this. This is going to be an entire series. This is maybe part one of what to do out of 7 different things we did. If you want us to DM you the exact 5-minute videos and exactly what you need to do to beat the market, to really thrive in this, and also maybe examples on how, specific examples like this one on how we did it, and specifically what insights did we find when we took those steps. I'll be sharing those over, I think, 7 to 8 videos. So cool. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much.